God is the human heart. Yeah. 4 chambers, 4 cherubs, 4 creatures, 4 Levite priests. It's all there, folks. It's all there. I got something better than that. Look at this. A graphic representation of what John saw in heaven. He said, I saw the 4 beasts and the Ark of the Covenant, the throne of God. And he said, I saw 24 elders surrounding the throne. Now remember, God made us in that fashion. And look at this. We have 24 ribs that surround the throne of God in our bodies. Somebody say amen. We are really the temple of the living God. Amen. Now keep that in mind. See, the doodaddies are going up and down. Amen. Now watch this. Where did the devil say he wanted to sit? Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, this threw me for a long time. I was looking at this, and I said, God, this doesn't make any sense. See, God told Moses exactly how to make the Ark of the Covenant, because it meant something. And He said, they shall make an ark of shittim wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the height thereof. Now, I've read a lot of scriptures, and I look at numbers in the Bible. And I don't remember a time when I saw something and a half. Usually I saw whole numbers in the Bible. And I like that because I hate fractions. Amen? I don't like fractions. I like decimals a whole lot better, okay? And I run a Christian school. Anyway, okay. But I kept looking at this. 2 cubits and a half, 1 cubit and a half, 1 cubit and a half. There it is right there. The base of it was 2.5 cubits. Part of the base was 1.5 cubits. And the height was 1.5 cubits. And I said, God, what does that mean? What are you trying to show me there? And so I just kind of got my calculator out. That's what I studied the Bible with, by the way. You use a Bible, Webster's Dictionary, and get a calculator. Amen? Okay, because he said count. And I started doing things with that, like the volume of what that would be and so on. And I did something, and I had to go back and look this up. The formula for the surface area of the Ark of the Covenant, the surface area, how much space each side of the Ark takes up in this world, okay? The number that I came up with is 19.5. Okay, now, that may not just ring all kinds of bells in you, and it didn't me either for a long time. But I'm going to show you some amazing things with this number right here, 19.5. Take a look at this symbol from an old Masonic book, the symbol for Royal Arch Masonry. Notice the 4 creatures there, the lion, the ox, the man, and the eagle. The 4-chamber heart, right? Notice the Ark of the Covenant, circled there. And down at the bottom, we have a symbol there, and a phrase there called holiness to the Lord. Do you see that there? Holiness to the Lord. Now, where does that come from? Does that ring a bell to anybody? They got that from the Scriptures, right? The Levites. Because Aaron, the high priest, was supposed to make a breastplate covering his heart, and on it was supposed to say, holiness to the Lord. I looked in the Bible. Guess where that's found in the Scriptures? It's found in the 78th chapter of the Bible, which is 19.5 times 4. Remember, the secrets of Freemasonry are in the King James Bible. Are you starting to be convinced now? Okay? It gets better than that. Okay? Take a look at this symbol. Okay? Now remember that Star of David that we saw, graven by art and man's device. Okay? I still like God's version better. Amen? Okay? This is from a book, and I'll show you the title of the book here in a minute. But I want you to notice how this Star of David is a mingling of things that are opposite. Notice the white, the black, the up and down of it there. That's very, very important. Okay? Notice the serpent entwining around this. It's called the Ouroboros or something like that. Okay? It means something. Okay? Here's another version of it. This is from Transcendental Magic, from Eliphas Levi, which is a pseudonym. You can download this book from Google Books, okay? And I want you to notice the symbol here, what they call the Star of David. Notice that we still have the same elements here, the man, the ox, the lion, and the eagle. And so we're talking about the heart, right? This is a symbol for the heart, the human heart, as it were. And I'm going to show you something else here. Take a look at this. This is a graphic drawn by Leonardo da Vinci of a tetrahedron. You see, when you have that Star of David in 3 dimensions, it makes basically two triangles intertwined together, one pointing up and one pointing down in 3 dimensions. Now, when you place that tetrahedron inside of a globe, the points at which the points of the triangle touches the surface of the globe is exactly at 19.5 degrees. Okay? So imagine these 2 tetrahedrons in a planet like the Earth. And where they would be touching is exactly 19.5 degrees on either side of the equator. Are you with me so far? I'm trying not to make this complicated, but this is what it is. That storm on Jupiter is at 19.5 degrees from its equator. Okay? The largest volcano on the Earth is in Hawaii, and it's at 19.5 degrees. The largest volcano on the planet Mars, Mons Olympus, is guess where? 19.5 degrees on Mars. Okay? There's something there, but it gets bigger than that. Okay? Notice we have here again this Star of David in a circle. Notice the elements here. The man, which is a sphinx now. This is a Masonic symbol. A man, an ox, a lion, and an eagle, representing the human heart and the Star of David there. Okay? Because we're going to place this Star of David, and it represents the Ark of the Covenant, the seat of God. Take a look at this here. This is the street layout of Washington, D.C. In the center here, you have the nation's capital, where Congress meets. Take a look at this area right here. What do you see? You see a format of the street layout. Let's draw some lines in that. Take a look at it now. It's there in the layout of Washington, D.C., the point of which touches our nation's capital. Wow. I got more than that. Now remember this. Here's Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. When we take Da Vinci's Man, which was drawn correctly, we place it inside of a circle and put that tetrahedron there, the line that intersects at 19.5 degrees crosses where the human heart is. It's the Ark of the Covenant, the human heart. Da Vinci knew this. Remember what we learned from the Da Vinci Code. That they said that he was a Grand Master of the Priory of Zion, which some people say never existed. I say that it did. And I say that Da Vinci knew something like this. Okay? So remember, that line across there represents where the human heart is. So when we go back to this layout of Washington, D.C., and on the top there where the Capitol is at the apex, and where that line goes across, guess where the human heart would be there? It's right where the Supreme Court building is. Okay? Where they have on the doors of the Supreme Court the 10 Commandments. Okay? Written in stone. Think about it. Okay? Take a look at this. How many of you have seen this symbol on the right before? It's called the yin-yang. Okay? And notice that the 2 dots there, representing the summer solstice and the winter solstice, fall exactly on 19.5 degrees. Okay? And how did we get this yin-yang symbol? How did they come about it? Well, the Chinese figured out that if they stuck a pole in the ground, a giant pole in the ground, and they marked where the shadows of that pole went throughout the course of a year, that it drew that design. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So if you're traveling to D.C. in the near future and you see a giant pole stuck in the ground, guess what it's doing? In a course of a year, it's drawing the yin-yang symbol, which has to do with the mixture of opposites. And here it is. The opposites are sons of God, daughters of men. Sons of God, daughters of men. Are we seeing something now? Sons of God, daughters of men. That yin-yang symbol. Sons of God on one side, daughters of men on the other. And what it is that they produce. Sons of God, daughters of men. Now, the street layout of Washington, D.C., it has evolved over time. Charles L'Enfant was a Freemason, and he did the original design of it. But he and George Washington got into some fights over how they wanted it laid out, and so he got fired, and another guy was brought in. Okay, I don't remember his name offhand. But this is Charles L'Enfant's original plan for Washington, D.C. Now, I want you to notice in the lower right-hand corner that he laid out the degrees of where this city was supposed to be. The latitude was supposed to be 38 degrees, or almost 39 degrees. And notice that the longitude is set at 0 degrees and 0 minutes. Why? Remember from the Da Vinci Code how that the original prime meridian was set in Paris, France. And they called it the Rose Line. And Dan Brown revealed that the Rose Line indicated a special bloodline. Okay? But then the prime meridian was moved, and the original drafters of Washington, D.C. wanted to establish a new prime meridian in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was anticipated at being longitude 0, a new Rose Line. And I found out that this was called God's longitude. And it gets pretty complicated, and there's some things that I don't understand. But it has to do with the vernal equinox. You know what that is? The first day of spring, on March 21st. Incidentally, it's the day, there's only 2 days of the year where there are 12 hours in the day and 12 hours at night. Okay? Now, in the 1600s, when England finally decided to change its calendar after the Roman calendar, Pope Gregory, the Gregorian calendar, they decided to do so because they wanted to fix this in a special place, a place where on March 21st was the only place in the world where on March 21st you had exactly 12 hours in the day and 12 hours at night. Did that make sense to everybody? In other words, on March 21st, there's only one place on the whole earth where there was 12 hours here and 12 hours here on that particular day. And they found out that it was on this particular longitude where Washington, D.C. is. And they called it God's longitude. Now remember what Jesus said. Know ye not that there are 12 hours in a day and 12 hours in the night, right? But actually, there's only 2 days out of the whole year that that's true on. And the first day of the year that that's true on is March 21st, and the only place that it's true on that day is in Washington, D.C. Okay? Now, that gets pretty complicated. That's even over my head, but I thought I'd share it with you anyway. Okay? But they wanted to establish a new Rose Line. But they didn't get to set it at 0 degrees, 0 degrees, so they settled with a number called 77. It's all through the Bibles. Christ's genealogy was 77 in Luke chapter 3. The word church is used 77 times in the King James Bible. And so this longitude, the number 77, denotes the house of God. Remember what the house of God is? The temple. They're telling you the secret